Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. Time the Princeton Orthopedic Associates Studios, 514, Zach Gelb Show. A lot of Sixers talk today, and now let's go out to the hotline. Someone who's been covering the team for a very long time and does a great job, covers the Sixers for the Philadelphia Daily News, and that's Bob Cooney, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Bob, thank you for coming on what is a very busy time of the year, but how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Zach. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing great, and we appreciate you coming on. So I saw that you had the other day that you think that Joel Embiid is going to play on Friday. Give me the thought process on Embiid playing Friday and what you're hearing.
Yeah, well, what they're going to do is they'll have some good workouts tomorrow and Thursday, and if he's pain-free and there's no swelling, which I'm kind of anticipating because I don't think they would have put him on a plane and let him go to New Orleans and do what he did if they weren't pretty confident that it would be okay. So after those 2 days, we'll do shoot-around Friday morning, and they'll let us know whether he's a go or not. But I just anticipate, I have a feeling he's going to be okay to go.
We know they're going to be very prudent with Embiid, and we know the potential that he has, and we've seen it in small doses this year, the transcendent player that he could be. But with all the injuries that he suffered, still for you, what is it like to watch Joel Embiid play right now?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing because going into this season, my thinking was, where can he be when the season ends? And I had some thoughts about where I thought he might be, how good he could be, or how much he'll have to progress, being as he hadn't played in 2.5 years, and he's going to get used to the NBA and a new body and all that stuff. He has far exceeded where I thought he would be this year, and his rustiness is still very much apparent, but so is his skill set, and he just may transcend the center position of the NBA in the next few years. He's that good.
The Embiid story, it's so bizarre because he hasn't been playing basketball for the large majority of his life. Like most of these kids that grow up living and dying and they want to end up being a player in the NBA. With Embiid, he was almost a volleyball player. Like, it's just so funny and so surreal still to think about that. Like, I really wonder how good of a volleyball player he was, Bob.
Well, I'll tell you what, he didn't take up basketball until he was 16 years old. So that just gives people a hint of how little he's played and maybe how far he'll progress. But, I tell this story a lot. While he was injured, he and I were sitting at practice one day just talking, and he had two basketballs, and he was dribbling one with, I believe it was his left hand, and with the other one, he was standing and dribbling like it was a soccer ball, kicking it from his foot to his knee, from one leg to the other, just standing still. And he juggled the ball on his feet, on his knees, for a good couple of minutes while dribbling another basketball with his left hand. So I look at it, I'm like, do you realize what you're doing here? He's like, oh, that's just what I do. And to me, it just like blew whistles in my head saying, this guy's special. He's a special type of an athlete.
We've heard when he was sitting out those 2 years, and it's always difficult to sit out those 2 years. We heard the immaturity rumors, and then you have things that happened last few weeks, like the dancing at the concert, which I didn't think was a big deal. He was basically just walking around on stage. But going back to that time period where he was out for 2 years, what did he learn just with the limited background that he's had in basketball so far?
What did he learn?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he just got more mature, Zach. I really did. I don't think his work ethic was the greatest, and he had some problems. A brother getting killed back home in Africa. I think Joel being here on his own it had been a couple of years then when the Sixers first got him. It was hard for him to be on his own and to try to go through the work regimen that the Sixers were trying to put him through as far as recovery, as far as everyday travel and the everyday grind of the NBA, even though he wasn't playing. That was something that they wanted him to learn. They wanted him to learn what it's like to have to come to the gym every day, to travel, to be, ready to go every single day. And I don't know if he was up for that at the beginning, and understandably so. But he has really matured during his couple of years. He is a gym rat. He loves being there. He's there earlier and later than most. And it's something that if you're a coach and you see a guy this big with that much talent, and wanting to improve all the time, it literally has the organization drooling over what this kid might become.
We know that the training wheels are still on in Joel Embiid, and there's still more to come with the process in Philadelphia when it involves their big man. Let's say if he's able to come back on Friday and then he goes on a nice little stretch of showing that he's able to stay healthy. I know he wants to try to go one back-to-back before the season's over. Do you think the team will let him?
They may. They may if it comes late in the year and everything points to being okay. I would bet against it. But if he pushes hard enough for it and proves that he's feeling great and everything's going okay, and then maybe there's a Ben Simmons factor in there where Simmons can play a game and they would need Embiid to go back-to-back in order for the two of them to, be on the court together, they may. But like I said, I wouldn't bet for that. I think they're going to be diligent in not putting him out there back-to-back. If there's any sort of soreness whatsoever, I think they're going to shelve him until he feels perfectly okay. So the remaining 26 games probably will be similar to the other part of the season, where they're just going to be very, very cautious, very diligent in his rehab and taking care of him.
Bob, when we look at the center position right now, we know that this team has a logjam in the front court, and this is going to be something that they're going to need to address. And many people speculate that will happen from now until Thursday with Jahlil Okafor. We saw the report earlier today that the Pacers have some interest. We know Magic Johnson used to tweet about how much he loved Jahlil Okafor. What ends up happening from now until the deadline with Okafor?
Again, if I was a betting man, I would say nothing. I would say nothing. This Indiana thing is intriguing, but you have to kind of look at what they might have to give back, and I don't know if that's going to be enough. And I'm not saying that Bryan Colangelo isn't smart enough to take what's good, and he's trying to oversell Jahlil Okafor. I don't think that's the case. But if he's not satisfied with something he's being offered, he's not just going to jump at it. And that was the case with the New Orleans Pelicans. He has plenty of time. There's no rush, really, to move Jahlil Okafor, except for people that are antsy that he's sitting on the bench and it's awkward. It is that. But in order to get back part of what you want to get back, or a good chunk of what you want to get back for Jahlil Okafor, patience might be the best thing that Bryan Colangelo can practice right now. So maybe they get something done before Thursday. I don't think they will. They had a deal that they thought, from what people told me, that they thought was a done deal with Portland on Saturday, the day that they held him out of the game, Okafor out of the game. And then Denver came in at the last minute and got a deal done with Portland that negated what the Sixers were going to do. So I don't know. I don't know if something will happen before Thursday. It could, but if I was a bettor, I would say no.
Bob Cooney, you're with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Let's talk a little bit about Sam Hinkie, because I wasn't the biggest Hinkie fan when he was here, but even I can admit right now that you look at some of these moves and what has happened with the Lakers and also the Kings, that Sam put them in a very good situation also with Embiid, and then what eventually we think Simmons will become. How do you remember the Sam Hinkie era in Philadelphia since you were around it?
It's like nothing anyone has ever seen, honestly. He took an organization to places that no other sports organization has ever been. And there's never been a teardown the way Sam Hinkie did it here, and for as long as he did it, and the way he went about it, and with just the patience that he did it. And, obviously the losing accompanied all that, and an unbelievable amount of losing it was. But, yeah, you're right. When you looked at it back then, you had to look at it and say, okay, where's it going? And when you look at it now, you have to say it's reaped some really good benefits. You're talking about Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric. You could have 2 picks in the top 7 this coming draft. You could have, you have the 2019 first-round pick, unprotected pick of the Sacramento Kings, which with the way that they're tearing things down, could be another very, very high pick. So things are looking very good for the Sixers, and a lot of that has to do with Sam Hinkie.
And when I look back at the demise of Sam Hinkie and why he ended up probably resigning, as we know he was probably on his way of getting moved out the door when Jerry Colangelo was brought in, and then eventually you have Bryan Colangelo being named the GM. But when I look back at the Sam Hinkie era, 2 things that I think cost him just because of how unprecedented his plan was. was also the Embiid. The second year of Embiid killed him, I thought. But number one, I would have to say, would be the lack of transparency publicly. And I know a lot of the beat guys will say, oh, and anytime I called Sam Hinkie, he would respond, or we would have a nice conversation. But I just thought if Sam would have been a little bit more transparent publicly, he could still probably be here as the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers. How about yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if it was publicly. I don't know if the organization. There were some times where he should have stepped up, and one time in particular was last year when Jahlil Okafor got into trouble. The team decided to suspend him. We were in Madison Square Garden before the game, and Sam Hinkie walked right past us and watched as Brett Brown had to take all the questions about that. So in that aspect, yes, there were some times that he could have stepped up a little bit better. I don't think it's so much him talking to the press or being transparent that bothered people in the organization. It was his inability to communicate, maybe with outside people like agents, which I know is correct. With some agents, his inability to communicate with them, but also in the building. Sam is just a different person. He's someone that keeps to himself. He can hunker down like with the best of them. And I just think, in an organization, in a professional sports organization, sitting around, bantering ideas, talking to people who work for you, who you work with, I think that's a major part of it. And I think some of that just didn't really convey to the people in the organization.
Sam is a very smart man. Just if you're ever in a room with him and able to talk to him, you could tell how erudite of a person that he really is. And if you even read that 13-page resignation letter, you could see some of the vocabulary in that. So with him being a smart man, you would assume that when he's getting a next job, whenever that is, that he would be able to adapt. Do you think it's in him to adapt a little bit when it comes in terms of communication skills, or is that just what you're getting when you hire a Sam Hinkie?
It's probably what you're getting. It probably is. And I'm not saying it's, that's the way Sam Hinkie's built, and guess what? That's why Sam Hinkie is as successful and as smart as he is, and he believes in what he is, and good for him, and I think he will absolutely stick to his guns and his beliefs of what things are all about. There was a story in the paper, or not in the paper. Someone had a story online. I think it was SI.com maybe a few months back about how every hour, Sam Hinkie tries to figure out what he could have done better in the previous hour. Like, that's the way this guy is made up. His mind is built differently than most of ours, and it's what makes him hugely successful.
So then moving forward off this, because we know Hinkie's no longer here, and now Colangelo's the man in charge, and I don't want to be overly critical over someone just at one trade deadline. I think you got to give Colangelo another year and have some more patience. And I know the Sixers fan has been asked to be patient a lot. Where is your confidence, though, with Colangelo and the job that he's doing right now?
Yeah, you're right. He hasn't done much to make you say he's bad or say he's great. And I know people are impatient with this center position. They want something done. But I agree with what he's done. I agree with being patient. I have no problem with that. I've written that from the beginning. I really don't think that there's a hurry. I think the move he made for Ersan Ilyasova was a really nice move. I tweeted it that night when he made it. I thought that was terrific that he was able to turn someone like a Jeremy Grant, who was a borderline NBA player, but that the organization grew into better than that, and he was able to turn that into Ersan Ilyasova, who is the exact model, whether it's him or not. But he is the exact model of the power forward that you need next to Joel Embiid moving forward. So I think you still have to wait it out with Colangelo. I think this trade deadline, what he'll do with the center spot, will be telltale. But confidence, we'll just have to see. We'll have to see how this all plays out.
I'll tell you, though, it's amazing to see really the divide in this fan base right now, because you always have the pro-process and the anti-process people. And I was an anti-process person, but I'm someone that is able to admit that they're wrong. And I know a lot of anti-process people will never do that. But then the pro-process people, it's like, all right, they thought that Hinkie would work, and they probably will end up being right. But now I feel like they're so quickly to pounce on Colangelo, and they're just so quickly, the pro-process people, like not ready to embrace the other anti-process people. And I know everyone wants to see the Sixers win, whether what side you're on it. But do you kind of see that right now with the fan base a little bit?
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's all or nothing. There's a divided line. It's the Hatfield and McCoy It's and I've been one that has just said, well, we got to see it play out. Let's see what happens, and I still firmly believe that. But it's not fair to anyone. What Sam Hinkie did is still playing out, and he did some great things that have left this organization where it is right now, which is in a pretty good place. But at the same time, to rail against people, Bryan Colangelo, just because he replaced Sam Hinkie, or to when you disagree with people who disagreed with Hinkie, and you take it to the extreme of hate and just it's like something I've never seen before in Philadelphia. I've never seen a division like this when it comes to fans of the same team, and it's not going to end. Unless people admit that they were wrong, or admit if this all turns well that Sam Hinkie was ahead of his time and did something unheard of, and but it is. I'll tell you, Zach, I've never seen anything like it.
And you've been around for a long time, and you've seen the days of sports before Twitter, and now you're seeing it during Twitter. You're exactly right. It's like now the fan and the eggheads on Twitter, people got to understand. Like, I do talk shows for a living. I'm going to be wrong a lot of my predictions, and then you have people retweeting from back what you said about 2014. It's like no one's ever going to be 110% right, Bob.
No, never. And guess what? Whatever Sam, if this team turns into championships down the road, Sam Hinkie wasn't 110% right in everything he did.
Sure.
He probably, if it comes to that, he did a lot of things well. It's just remarkable to me. The people that hate can't admit the good things. The people that love can't admit when something may have gone wrong. And it's a division, like I said, that I've never seen before. And it's really quite fascinating. I just can't believe that I have gone through this over the last 4 years.
Well, you've gone through a lot. Wrapping up with Bob Cooney, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Ben Simmons, I know that you've been under the impression from people that you talk to that we won't see him this year, and I thought last week really solidified that. Still sticking by that, I have to assume that we don't see Simmons this year, correct?
I know they want him on the floor, and he's going to get retested this week. He'll get another CT scan, and they'll see how that bone is healing. They weren't totally satisfied the last time they got it done, so they weren't ready to put him back on the court. If it is to their liking when they get this one done, they're going to get him practicing 5-on-5, and they're going to try to get him on the court. The problem is the time frame that you have. The Sixers have a West Coast trip, and then they have another 6-game road trip. If he's trying to get on the floor and play 5-on-5 with teammates, I don't know if he's going to be going out and flying and doing that, because that's not real conducive to recovery. If you're, once you come back to playing basketball, there's going to be soreness everywhere, not just the foot where the injury was. There probably will be a little swelling in places just because, you're coming back and playing for the first time in months. I don't know if they want him flying up and down as much as road trips warrant. So, I think the time frame starts to get a little bit short unless they start, getting him out on the floor really soon.
And then finally, let's just go off your prediction when getting back to the big man that Okafor is not going to be dealt by Thursday. Let's just say that he is here at the end of the season. Next year, we know Embiid's going nowhere, but Noel's also a free agent, and then maybe they're able to get a deal done with Okafor. What ends up happening overall in your estimation when we get to the lineup next year and they have to eliminate this logjam?
Yeah, I would say, ideally, maybe this is your ideal situation where you convince Noel to be a backup, and you give him what the money it commands, what other teams drove it up to, because he's restricted, and the Sixers can match any offer that is given to him. If you can convince him to be that backup and play hard as a backup and give him the type of money he wants, and you deal Okafor, I'll tell you, ever since Embiid has been healthy and Noel has been coming off the bench for him, it's been such a seamless transition, because you're bringing the defensive player off the floor. That second unit is a really nice unit when Noel is with it. That would be ideal. Or maybe you get rid of both of Okafor and Noel. And if they're going to get rid of Noel, they're going to do it before the summer comes, because they don't want to just lose him and not get anything in return. So it's still going to play out. A lot of it has to do, do they have confidence enough in Rashawn Holmes to be the sole backup of Joel Embiid? That still has to be thought out. So there's not an answer there really that I gave you. It's just like it's an interesting time and kind of a wait and see how this is all going to play out. But they're lucky enough that they have enough situations that they can, it should be able to work out for them.
Fair enough. Bob Cooney, great stuff on the show today. Read him at the Philadelphia Daily News, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks, Bob.
Zach, thanks for having me, buddy. I'll see you.